Welcome everybody to update number 23, and this update is consisting solely of films that were a part of the Indicator 5th anniversary sale. You've already seen one of the films on the horror haul that I did, that was Night of the Demon, and Sinbad was also included as part of the 5th anniversary celebrations. Not in a sale, but it was re-released after going out of print a while ago, limited to only 3,000 copies. So I've bought 11 films in the sale outside of Night of the Demon. All but one of them I have seen. So 10 new films to my collection that I've never seen before is a pretty big haul as far as I'm concerned. Usually most films I buy in a single haul is usually films that I've seen before. But yeah, to have only one that I've seen before out of 11 is really rather unusual for me. But I did do research on these films before buying them, and I was convinced that I'd enjoy them to some degree. And the first of those is 1978's The Legacy. Now, this is the standard edition version of the Indicator release. It's a horror film clocking in at 102 minutes long. It's directed by Richard Marquand, who also did The Fantastic Eye of the Needle, but most famously did Return of the Jedi. Stars Catherine Ross, who was in numerous different kind of films like Donnie Darko, The Graduate, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, as well as the original Stepford Wives from 1975. It also stars Sam Elliott, who was in the fantastic Tombstone, as well as The Big Lebowski and The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, which I really rather enjoyed. And it's about a couple who attempt to unravel a sinister plot within the English countryside estate of a dying man who has gathered an eclectic and notable group of house guests. So, I'm not really knowledgeable about this film all that much at all. I did do research, obviously. I looked at the average score on Letterboxd and the cast and the like, but definitely don't know much about it, but still looking forward to seeing it. And secondly, we have from 1971, The Anderson Tapes. Now this is a crime film clocking in at 99 minutes long, directed by Sidney Lumet, who did the fantastic The Offence, Murder on the Orient Express, and The Hill, all starring the lead star in this, Sean Connery. As well as equally superb Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico, Failsafe, Network, The Verdict, and finally 12 Angry Men. So I've seen so many films from Sidney Lumet that this certainly should hopefully not be a disappointment at all. Like I said, it stars Sean Connery, as well as Martin Balsam, who was also in The Taking of Pelham 123, 7 Days in May, and Tora. And you've also got an early screen performance from Christopher Walken, who was also in Pulp Fiction, True Romance, Batman Returns, and The Dead Zone, to name a few. And it's about a thief called Duke Anderson, played by Sean Connery, who has just been released from 10 years in jail, who takes up with his old girlfriend and her posh apartment block and makes plans to rob the entire building. What he doesn't know is that his every move is being recorded on audio and video, although he is not the subject of any surveillance. So, kind of plays into the whole conspiracy thriller, the paranoia thriller of the 70s, although this was ahead of the game in that regard. But still really looking forward to it, especially since I've been a big fan of Sean Connery, obviously, not just in the James Bond films, but obviously in his other solo efforts. And Sidney Lumet has also, like I said, done several great films. And thirdly, we have Cash on Demand. Now, this was released in 1961. It's a neo-noir crime thriller, clocking in at either 67 or 81 minutes long, depending on the release that you've got. Directed by Quentin Lawrence, who also did The Crawling Eye, which is a low-budget sci-fi horror film, which I found rather good. Stars Peter Cushing and Andre Morel, who we've already talked about in The Hound of the Baskervilles, so if you want to hear more about them too, then look at that review. But it also stars Richard Vernon, who was in Goldfinger, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, and The Tomb of Ligeia. And it's about a charming but ruthless criminal who holds the family of a bank manager hostage as part of a cold-blooded plan to steal £97,000. So, it's really interesting. Apparently, Peter Cushing is that lead ruthless criminal, who is typically the good guy in, say, horror films, outside of, I think, the Frankenstein series. But it's going to be interesting to see what he can do outside of a horror film, because I've only seen him in horror films or Star Wars. So, going to be really interesting to see what he can do. And it's also done by Hammer as well, which I didn't think they did anything outside of horror back in the 60s, but there we go. And fourth film is also from 1961, Night Tide. Now, this is a 84-minute long fantasy film, but also is considered a horror film as well. It's directed by Curtis Harrington, who I've not seen anything from before, but it stars Dennis Hopper, who was in Apocalypse Now, Speed, Blue Velvet, Waterworld, and True Romance. And it's about a sailor who falls in love with a carnival girl, despite warnings that she is a jinx who has brought about the deaths of 2 previous suitors. So I am interested to see why this is considered a fantasy, but also interested to see why it's also considered a horror at the same time, because yeah, fantasy and horror rarely meet in a lot of ways. So yeah, especially back in the 60s. So yeah, really interested to see where that goes. And yeah, especially since I really am a big fan of Dennis Hopper, although I've not seen as many films by him as I would have liked. So yeah, there we go. And in the 5th film, yeah, is 1966's The Chase. Now, this is a drama that clocks in at 134 minutes long. It's directed by Arthur Penn, who did the both great films of Bonnie and Clyde and Night Moves. Really love those films. It stars Marlon Brando, Jane Fonda, Robert Redford. I could go through their filmography, but I'll be here forever. It also stars E.J. Marshall, who I'm sure most people don't know, but he was in 12 Angry Men, Creepshow, Superman 2, Tora, 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 and Pushover, as well as Robert Duvall. And yeah, this is about the escape of Bubba Reeves, who was played by Robert Redford, who escapes from prison and affects the inhabitants of a small southern town. Now, not only was the cast and the director the reason I bought this, but it's also got a score by John Barry, who, yeah, I think you'll admit is a really fantastic score composer. And yeah, considering this is in the height of his fame during the James Bond series, I'm interested to see what he can do in comparison to those films. And yeah, 6th film, is 1967's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Now, this is a romantic comedy drama clocking in at 108 minutes long, directed by Stanley Kramer, who also did the fantastic Judgment at Nuremberg. That's the only film I've seen from him, but I saw it this year and I was absolutely blown away by it, so I figured I'd go in for his more mainstream, well-known effort. This stars Catherine Houghton, who I've not seen anything from before, but also stars Sidney Poitier, who was in The Great No Way Out, which was his debut film feature, as well as In the Heat of the Night and To Sir With Love. Now, this film, as well as In the Heat of the Night and To Sir With Love, were released all in the same year of 1967, and combined made $123 million, which, yeah, is a huge amount of money and really did break Sidney Poitier into the mainstream, but also helped other black actors crack into the film industry as well, because, yeah, he was easily the first big black actor going, as far as I'm concerned. Not just from his box office reputation, but also from his film quality. Because, yeah, I've heard great things about To Sir With Love. I've heard great things about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner as well. And he was fantastic in The Heat of the Night as well. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing it. It also stars Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, who are collaborating together for the 9th and final time, as unfortunately Spencer Tracy passed away 17 days after his role was filmed. So a great shame, because he was equally fantastic in Judgment at Nuremberg, as well as Bad Day at Black Rock, which is easily one of my all-time favourite films. So yeah, this is about a couple's attitudes who are challenged when their daughter brings home a fiancé who is black. So yeah, it's right at the heart of the civil rights movement at that time. And yeah, Sidney Poitier having 3 of the biggest films of 1967, yeah, is also a crucial part of the civil rights movement as well. And he was an activist at the time. And yeah, I can see why he became such a big star, because not only is he in good films, but he's in films that really hit at the heart of the whole civil rights movement at the time. Because not only is this dealing with interracial couples, but In the Heat of Night was also dealing with racist cops and him being a cop as well in this, strange town trying to solve a murder. And yeah, it's really, really good. So yeah, now we have from 1967, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It's a gangster film clocking in at 100 minutes long, directed by Roger Corman, who did all of the Poe adaptions in the early 60s, 6 of which starred Vincent Price, and I love all 6 of those. Stars Jason Robards, who was in Once Upon a Time in the West, and All the President's Men, 2 fantastic films. Also stars George Segal, who was in Roller Coaster and The Bridge at Ramadan. And yeah, it's set in Chicago, February 14th, 1929. Al Capone finally establishes himself as the city's boss of an organised crime. In a Northside garage, his hoods, dressed as policemen, surprise and mow down with machine guns the key members of Bugs Moran's rival gang. The film traces the history of this incident and the lives affected, and in some cases ended by it. So yeah, I've heard really good things about this film. Roger Corman was really at the height of his influence in the 60s by this point. After the Poe films were huge hits, he had critical acclaim with the likes of Tower of London. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in outside of the horror genre, because I've only really seen films from him in the horror genre. Obviously, some had a slant of sci-fi to them as well, but yeah, typically horror or sci-fi from him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in the gangster genre, and yeah, it should hopefully be good. And then from 1964, we have The Third Secret. Now, this, along with, I do apologise if we're going back a little bit, but St. Valentine's Day is part of the limited edition run of these films. So these come with reversible artwork and a booklet. So there's Roger Corman there. So yeah, but regardless, yeah, all of them come with a booklet. I just want to tell you that. So yeah, 1964's The Third Secret. This also comes with a booklet, and it's a neo-noir psychological mystery thriller film from running in at 103 minutes long. Here's a booklet. So there's the lead character, and I think that's him again, or is that the director? I can't remember. But yeah, maybe the director. But yeah, still, this is directed by Charles Crichton, who also did The Lavender Hill Mob. But more crucially, his last ever film was A Fish Called Wanda, which is a fantastic comedy crime film. Stars Stephen Boyd, who was in two epic films that I've not seen yet, but I really want to, Ben-Hur and The Fall of the Roman Empire. Also stars Jack Hawkins, who was in also another epic film, Lawrence of Arabia, as well as The Bridge on the River Kwai, Zulu, and Theatre of Blood. And stars also Richard Attenborough, who not only as a director, but also as an actor starred in Jurassic Park, A Bridge Too Far, and The Flight of the Phoenix. As a director, he also did Gandhi and Magic. And yeah, this is about a prominent London psychologist who seems to have taken his own life, causing stunned disbelief amongst his colleagues and patients. His teenage daughter refuses to believe it was suicide, as this would go against all of the principles her father stood for. Therefore, she is convinced it was murder. She enlists the help of a former patient to try and get to the truth. However, the truth turns out to be both surprising and disturbing. So, yeah, that premise alone sold me, never mind the great cast and the fact the director has done two films I've really enjoyed before. And, yeah, third to last, we have 1947's They Made Me a Fugitive. This, again, comes with a booklet, which I do read. So that's why I do like getting these limited edition versions. So there's, I think, a shot from the film, yeah, and there's a cast, probably a director in there as well. So yeah, these are really rather good booklets to read through if you ever get the chance. And yeah, this is a film noir, clocking in at 99 minutes long, directed by Alberto Calvayanti, who also did Dead of Night, which is a horror anthology film that was also had involvement from Charles Crichton. Weird link there. But yeah, I've not seen any films from him before, but I will look forward to at some point. Stars Sally Gray, who I've not seen anything from before. Trevor Howard, who was in The Third Man, as well as The Offence and Von Ryan's Express. And also stars Griffith Jones, who I've not seen anything from before as well. And yeah, it's about a man who's been framed for a policeman's murder, and he escapes from prison and sets out for revenge. So yeah, not the most complicated plots by any means, but yeah, considering it's got Trevor Howard in it, it's got a director who's worked with notable people before, I'm really convinced that it's going to be good. And yeah, so many film noirs from the 40s have been great. I've not seen any that I've really been disappointed by, so this shouldn't be the case for this. So yeah, second to last, and the last of the films that I haven't seen before, is 1930's The Criminal Code. Now, this is directed by Howard Hawks, who also did The Big Sleep, Rio Bravo, To Have and Have Not, and Scarface. All brilliant films. And yeah, you'll see one of the actors now. If you can guess who that is before I say it, then you get a big gold star. And there's the director himself. And yeah, this stars Walter Houston, who was also in The Treasure of Sierra Madre, and Dragonwyck, as well as Philip Holmes, who I've not seen anything from before, Constance Cummings, who I've not seen anything from before, and also Boris Karloff. Big points to you if you got that right. I was in so many films, but briefly, 4 Frankenstein films, 2 versions of The Raven, and also Targets from 1968, which I've yet to see, but as been given, he's supposed to get a Blu-ray release, but has been pushed back so many times. I don't think it's ever going to come out, unfortunately. But yeah, this is about a young guy called Robert Graham who commits a murder while drunk and defending his girlfriend. He is prosecuted by ambitious Mark Brady and sentenced to 10 years. 6 years later, Brady becomes a prison warden and offers a beleaguered Robert a job as his chauffeur. Robert cleans up his act, but on the eve of his pardon, his cellmate drags him back into the world of violence and he faces a difficult choice that could return him to prison. Now, we've actually seen this film before in some regards in the 1950 film Convicted, which was in one of the film noir box sets that I'm struggling to remember which one it was from, but I really rather enjoyed that film, especially since it starred Glenn Ford and Broderick Crawford. But yeah, apparently this is even better than the 1950 version. So yeah, since I really enjoyed the 1950 version, I should hopefully enjoy this even more. And finally, we have the only film that I have seen before out of this lot. It's 1957's Town on Trial. Like the previous few, this also comes with a booklet, which again is really rather nice and thick, as well as a reversible cover. And yeah, this is a mystery film clocking in at 95 minutes long. It's directed by John Guillermin, who also did the fantastic Towering Inferno, which is easily one of my favourite films from the disaster genre. And yeah, when an attractive young girl is murdered, suspicion falls on several members of the local tennis club. It falls to Police Inspector Halloran to sort out all the red herrings, and finally, after a confrontation at the top of the local church spire, arrest the culprit. Another fascinating look at what life was like in Britain during the 1950s. And yeah, this is by no means an exhilarating mystery film, but it is an engrossing one, while its influence on other films, and in particular British crime drama on TV, is plain to see, which is definitely worthy of respect. And yeah, the cast is also good, especially John Mills as Halloran. It is well paced, has a solid script that kept me guessing on who the culprit is. The production is decent, is nicely shot, and the score is good. So yeah, by no means my favourite film from the director, but yeah, still a worthwhile effort. And yeah, that's why I got it, because not only was it now going cheap on the sale, but yeah, you know, I've already seen it and I've already enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm always for films that have had a great deal of influence on other forms of film or TV that I enjoy, and that is one of them big crucial films that really did have an influence on you know, the TV, especially TV murder mystery dramas in the UK. If you're from the UK or know of UK murder mysteries, then you'll pretty much know the template that this film goes by. So yeah, great series of films there. I'm really looking forward to seeing the 10 that I haven't seen before. It's going to be a real treat to watch them. There's a few there that I'm so excited for that I'm probably going to watch a couple tonight. And yeah, but nonetheless, thanks for watching. If you've seen any of these films, I'd like to hear your thoughts on them. But nonetheless, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.